for whatever reason, Hollywood cannot focus on just making good movies and television. It seems to be completely impossible for them. They have no ability to just sit there and do what they're paid to do. They have an activist class unlike any other, and they work very, very hard to make you and I hate them no matter what. And they try to influence elections by telling you who to vote for. As we saw this year, it failed miserably. But what we've learned, there was this great article from The Hollywood Reporter that Breitbart then went and covered, which is that the activist class in Hollywood has been absolutely demoralized by Donald Trump and Donald Trump's victory in the 2024 election. And what it goes on to focus on is like, they're not going to be wearing pink pussy hats on, the road and protesting. What they're going to be doing is they're going to be focusing not on the macro scale, but on the micro scale, which is local elections and down ballot candidates. And then I'm over here thinking like, why do they have to do that at all? Like, just hear me out. What if you just like went to work and did your job and then like went home?
Why would
that'd be great? But apparently that's not the case. What they want to focus on, tell me if you're shocked by this, abortion and climate change. Shocked? Does anybody find that shocking?
Not even a little bit.
So
exhausting is what it is.
This is what first of all, this is literally from the Hollywood Reporter. It says, "Leave your pussy hats at home." Well, you should have done that from the beginning.
You shouldn't have
ladies and gentlemen. You shouldn't have it to begin with. It says, instead, Hollywood elites are reportedly refocusing on efforts on local and down ballot candidates. I do think that the approach will be much more micro than macro this time around. The chief engagement officer of the industry law firm Johnson, Shapiro, Sluitt & Cole told the outlet. Says, we'll see more of a focus on state and local levels. The fight to protect abortion is a good case study. You're seeing states ratifying abortion at the state level. Oddly enough, then most of the small government people are like, great, that's what you should be doing from the beginning. Like that. We love that. We love that idea. Even if, the people who are super against abortion won't, but your average everyday small government person, libertarians are like, fantastic, do that. Mm-hmm. It's absolutely ridiculous. Back in 2017, they're talking about, everyone taking to the streets and ruining Hollywood with pink pussy hats and then making movies like Ghostbusters 2016. And what is it that you guys think motivates actors to latch on to such political causes? And this is what I thought was funny. It's always now in 2024, abortion and climate change. Those two specifically. Now, abortion, I actually understand from their level. I think it's evil. But the point is they go on stage at award shows and they say, I wouldn't be here because I had to get an abortion at one point. They said, I wouldn't have had my career if I didn't kill my baby. That's what they're saying. Not to be crude. That's what they're saying. They go up on stage at the Oscars and they think that they have that right, which of course, to a person who's politically uninitiated sounds like, oh, they were able to succeed because of their right to choose. But what we really understand is that, sure.
Go ahead.
The studios love it. You know why? Because network, like for instance, if you're on network TV, right, and you're a female lead on a television show, they don't always write you out. What they have to do is they have to do what they did with Dana Scully for like 7 times on the X-Files, which is stack a bunch of files on top of her and put her in the frumpiest coat you can see. It's less work for them if you can just get an abortion. Like a company saying, we'll fly you to another state to get an abortion because we don't want to pay for maternity leave.
Yeah, I mean, that's a real thing. But I think that for people to really understand the abortion, I guess I don't want to use pop culture phrases. The dishonesty surrounding the abortion debate is when they're the people that are getting full hysterectomies because they want to retain the choice. Yeah, that's insane. Yes, you're literally getting a hysterectomy, which bars you from ever having a choice again. Yeah. And you're doing it so that, and you're articulating to people that it's so that way you can have the choice. The left, the arguments coming from the left, the language they use is totally disassociated from what they mean nowadays, or at least it's become glaringly obvious to the average not politically initiated person, that the language they use is totally disassociated from the realities that they're talking about.
And I think that the average, viewer wouldn't care if it wasn't seeping into the actual entertainment, right? Look, I loved, what was it? The Day After Tomorrow, which is literally a climate propaganda movie of the most insane degree back in what was it, 2002 or something like that. I think I guessed the year on the show once and I got it wrong, and I was like, for shame. For shame. Whatever. I love that movie. But it says, I'm just going to pull this up from the Hollywood Reporter article. It says, climate change and reproductive rights and immigration will likely be the top concerns for left-leaning industry activists set moving forward.
Climate change, reproductive rights, and what?
Immigration.
Yep.
Okay. It says, a couple of Hollywood-backed organizations focused on climate solutions emphasize that a regional approach may be increasingly important in the next 4 years. Again, why? Why can't you just make movies? I know I sound like a broken record here, but why can't you just make movies? If you want to do this as an actor in your free time, I guess that's a big part of it is social media, but they're talking about forming PACs. Jane Fonda's Climate PAC. I don't get it. I don't get what it is about the average Hollywood actor. I think a lot of it is guilt. I think a lot of it is the fact that when you make your money the way that they do in a profession that the average person, for as much as we love movies and television, people, the second they say an opinion that you don't like, people denigrate actors and say you're a professional liar, you're a professional pretender.
There's a $20 from
Carnell.
Yep. I reject the premise that The Penguin is overrated. Whether it was the audience response to the finale, the show was consistent. Whether it was the audience response to the finale, the show was consistent in delivering what people wanted out of storytelling. I'll take it out of the slop fest that was 2024.
Yeah, and look, a lot of times you can mark the success of something by how many memes are made about it, and the amount of memes that were made about it, about the finale, were incredible. So it was great. So a couple of Hollywood-backed organizations focused on climate solutions emphasize that a regional approach may be increasingly important in the next 4 years. Climate advocates can surmise that any action to increase community resilience to climate disasters or build more renewable energy infrastructure is absolutely going to fall to the states, to cities, to civil society, to industry leaders, religious organizations, nonprofit organizations, and to everyday people, argues Sarah Shanley Hope, the managing director of narrative strategies at the Solutions Project, which was co-founded by Mark Ruffalo.
Look at that name.
Go to work.
If Mark Ruffalo's involved, you know that it's ridiculous.
I can't with these people. So I was just curious. So I also saw that one of the things I found interesting is the big industry leaders, maybe not necessarily just entertainment, but you could call Jeff Bezos entertainment. They're kind of on board now for Trump. They're like, look, he seems calmer this time. That's what he's saying. He seems calmer this time. And they're looking to work with him. So is David Zaslav, because they want to be able to expand their businesses, right? Yep. Hollywood is an extremely pro-capitalist industry, which has extremely communist underpinnings, which means it's always at ends. The creatives are always at odds with the people that hold the purse strings to the industry, which I find to be the most fascinating part about that. But beyond that, I was just curious as to the history of Hollywood and activism. And I was just asking ChatGPT about the history of it. And it goes through from the 70s by decade as to what the differences were from decade to decade to decade. Because as we know, big disasters happen. Crazy things happen in every decade. Anti-war used to be a big part of it in past decades. So how has it changed? In the 70s they say in the 1970s was the founding of modern activism in Hollywood.
Keep in mind, in the 1970s, there was a massive number of actual bombings inside the United States. Left-wing terrorism was incredible, was out of hand, and it looks like we are going in that direction again. With the George Floyd riots, with the two attempts on Donald Trump's life, with the CEO that was killed. These are all left-wing attacks. These are all left-wing terrorist attacks.
Well, what you learn here as you go through this list is it becomes less it becomes less overt, it becomes more personal and more identity focused as every decade progresses. So it says, in the 1970s was the founding of modern activism, civil rights, anti-Vietnam War protests, and environmentalism. Key figures, Jane Fonda, there's that name again. They weren't even connected in the article I was reading before. Anti-Vietnam War, Muhammad Ali, civil rights, and anti-war. And they say the methods were used were public appearances, speeches, and interviews. Well, the big change to that today is social media, right? Yeah. So in the 80s, it was mainstream integration, anti-apartheid, famine relief, and global health crises. Look, again, worldwide, not as focused on America. And again, public appearances and things like that are the way you got the word out. The 90s was the beginning of globalization and identity politics. So we love the 90s, you know, we speak very highly of the 90s here. And I think everybody who lived through it, I posted a commercial last night from like the early 90s, a Cheerios Christmas commercial that I guarantee you if you go watch right now will hit you in the feels very, very hard. But all of this stuff was already started back then. So it says global poverty, LGBTQ rights, and environmental conservation. In the 2000s, social media emergence, climate change, anti-war movements, and human rights. Examples are Angelina Jolie for refugee advocacy, Leonardo DiCaprio for climate change, and Sean Penn for Hurricane Katrina relief. Well, Sean Penn is one of those guys who's insufferable all the time.
Yeah,
but
he is insufferable all the time.
The 2010s was the rise of digital activism, and there's that word, intersectionality. Yeah. And that's where you get to the point where we are now. And why I say that is because Hollywood, still made up largely of the most successful people being successful white people, means a lot of lashing yourself and prostrating yourself before others to say, I'm sorry for my success and my skin color.
Yeah. And I think that the fact that there are so many people that are so successful and they're so repentant about it speaks to the fact that society hasn't been teaching people to have pride in themselves and to believe that winning is good and stuff. So there's a $19 chat from Nate, $20 chat from Nate. Please read chat from my name is Giovanni Giorgio.
I don't see the chat.
Yeah,
I can't see it.
I don't see it.
But I just thought, so these were the key trends over time. Increased personalization, got it right that time. Activism is now a part of many celebrities' personal brands. Stop that. Seriously, stop that. If you want to be a celebrity, you can do it without activism. I know a lot of the industries will say otherwise because they're now expected of you, which is sad. But I imagine that for the ones that are most successful, you have to find a cause that like flies under the radar. Like, what is Sydney Sweeney's activist cause? I have no idea.
And we love her for it.
Yeah. Keanu Reeves does, like, whatever Keanu Reeves supports as far as social justice, I don't know what it is. Right? So you can do it perhaps, but you have to find a way to do it that does not annoy the average everyday person. Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.